Can you pause it right there? Can you pause it right there? We're not going to gloss over that.
I mean, one of my favorite stories to tell and favorite moments of my life is when I got the call to work with Macy Gray.
How are you controlling the heartbeat?
The heartbeat?
Your heartbeat at that moment, you know?
Yeah.
Because this is a big moment for you. However,
feels like a big moment. Yeah. Everyone's path is different. Mm-hmm. To your point, like, so it would be really scammy to be like, here's how you do it.
Right.
You make a reel with this and that. You go to this jam session, and then boom, you're on.
Right.
That's just not how it works. So like, the only thing I can see that's a through line for every musician, artist, creator I've ever met is like,
this is the IGuru Brand Showcase series. In these showcases, I get the opportunity to sit down with creatives and entrepreneurs that I respect and admire to glean information about their brand and professional processes. I am the sole proprietor of IGuru Solutions, a brand management development company designed to provide information and resources to the modern creative and entrepreneur. This showcase, I have with me no other than the Mr. Alex Kyhn. He is an internationally known professional bassist, composer, engineer, known for his feel, tone, and genre versatility. He's worked with artists such as Tauren Wells, BJ Putnam, Macy Gray. He's a member of the trio Family Company. Alex's career includes touring, local performances, studio recording, producing, and engineering. His distinctive groove, sound, and musical approach is respected throughout the highly competitive music industry, both domestic and internationally. Alex's discography is already vast and represents a highly respectable music career, and he's just getting started. Mr. Kyhn is an ambassador of the arts, a true modern musical scientist, businessman, and all-around good dude. Alex has paved his own path and has become a force in the music world, from performing and collaborating with top artists to crafting basslines that are undeniably his signature. He's become more than a bassist. He's a storyteller. Stick around as we uncover his answers to paving a respectable path in the music industry. Welcome.
Whew. Nice. Nicely done. You write that?
I did.
That's good, man. Killing it.
Amen.
Appreciate it.
It's all true.
Thank you. I mean,
It's all
I guess.
True. I have to respect the craft and do my research and everything like that and be up to date. And, man, you've already done quite a bit.
I appreciate that. Thanks, bro.
Man.
Yeah, I've been working for sure.
Yeah, I remember. Let's go back to when my first memory of us meeting. I think we were recording something together. That was the first time I remember meeting you. It was somewhere in Central Phoenix. We were recording for something. I don't remember exactly what the record was. I think it was at a church or something. They were using it as a studio. Anyways. That was my first time meeting you.
Are you talking about it? Was it like
I think
O'Shea
it was a raise up
on drums?
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and the first thing was like, I was like, man, I know white boys could play like this out here, man. I had never met someone that could play the bass like that. That wasn't African American, dude. I was blown away, but yeah, I appreciate you coming by and doing this. I know you have a lot going on, and I like to always acknowledge that before I do an interview. I genuinely appreciate this from the bottom of my heart, not just because we're recording a podcast, but because I respect you as an individual. I respect your art. I respect your time. So thank you.
Likewise, man. I appreciate you saying that too.
I'm
definitely busy, but like, I always got time for you, man. You're a real one. I really appreciate you having me on too, and the chance to just share. I felt like it's kind of our responsibility in the arts community to share what we know. And I mean, like, the odds are so stacked against us. It's such a hard path to try to be a creator in this world that, like, man, anytime someone comes across my path who's like, yo, I would love to learn, or, can you give me a hand in some way?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So thanks for giving me the opportunity
of course,
to lend
man.
my voice.
I've kind of had the blessing throughout the process of building this company, and we've had conversations in passing over the years of like the things that we're passionate about, and your route has always been I'm a musician, I'm a pro, and I'm gonna do it this way, and I always respected that about you because you said you're gonna do it a certain way, and that's how you're doing it.
For sure, appreciate that.
So my audience are individuals that are looking for real information that can help them move forward in their profession with practical information from real pros. So thank you abundantly for agreeing to be here. But I also wanted to mention that about my audience because the landscape that we're currently in, especially being in the information age, you have so much information that a lot of information almost becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
So really big on like, let's give them real information from real. We don't want it feeling scammy,
Oh, I see what you mean.
We don't want it feeling like the platform is taking a stance of authority on a topic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's such a great point, man. I've thought about this so much. And I think the thing is with music that's tough is that everyone's path is different. To your point. Like, so it would be really scammy to be like, here's how you do it.
Right.
You make a reel with this and that, you go to this jam session, and then boom, you're on.
Right.
That's just not how it works. So like the only thing I can see that's a through line for every musician, artist, creator I've ever met is like fall in love with the craft.
Ooh, you're jumping deep into
right,
it, bro.
Because it's gotta carry you. This is gonna be a journey. If you want to be a musician full time or whatever art form, it's gonna be a lifelong endeavor.
Yeah.
So, make sure that's something you want to do. It's gonna alter choices like the people your loved ones, the partner you choose, et cetera, et cetera. So
And I want my audience, if you've clicked on this podcast, first off, thank you for reaching out to this podcast or the brand showcases or IGuru Solutions, and trusting it to give you some sort of valuable information. Now, this man here, everything that we're going to talk about, it comes from real experience. This is a man of character. You can look up his credits. You can Google him. You can chat GPT him, whatever you need to do. He's not promoting himself. I'm promoting him. From my experiences in the past, from experiencing him, and his integrity and his character and his brand that he's created on his own. So do know that I do need to put that disclaimer out there.
Appreciate that.
So I got a list of questions.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna start off. So the first one is, tell us who Alex Kyhn is, where you grew up, and how you started on bass.
Man, I'm me, the son of Peter and Christine. I grew up in the Bay Area initially, born in San Jose, kind of bounced around the Bay. My dad was a associate pastor of music, minister of music.
Yeah.
And so we were always like bouncing around different churches, depending on, because you know how you grew up in church as well, I'm sure. And so, things like church splits or like shrinking congregations, like these things were always a common denominator in my life. So moved from the Bay Area to Denver when my dad was seeking a different position at a church in Denver, and lived there for, I think that was like 13 to 19 or something like that. I went to Denver School of the Arts and the University of Denver and furthered my music studying there, and then came to Arizona, and I lived here for about 9 years.
Dude, I didn't know you was a pastor. You were a pastor.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Well, it's a little different. I think when some people say pastor's kid, like when you think of pastor, you think of like preacher, like up on the altar speaking. And that wasn't my dad. My dad was more so like directing the choir, you know, leading worship on stage, but like he was really, his passion was sort of community.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Yeah, behind the scenes, and just like connecting with people. Like later in his career, he's retired now, but a lot of his life was like going to hospitals and visiting people who were sick or like on their deathbed. And I love my dad. He's a huge man of character. And but yeah, so I sometimes I don't say I'm like a PK.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a PK, but it's a little different than some other people's experience as a PK.
I understand.
But the thing that is the same, though, I grew up in the church, and if you're a PK, you know exactly what that's like. Like every day spending time there, running around in the gym, shooting hoops when no one's in the church, and you know, just having a community of church folk. And
so is that where the bass started for you as well?
the bass, yeah, I mean, essentially so. I have an older brother, Matt, who, you know, I don't know if you have siblings, but if you have an older brother, you know that like when you're little especially, it's just like, I want to be like my brother. Whatever he's doing, I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so he started playing guitar. I remember he got, maybe he was just like borrowing my parents' acoustic or something, but he started learning the chord shapes, and I just wanted to be just like him.
Yeah.
So I picked up the guitar, and we had this little, this CD from like a worship band, right? Because like, you know, you do your like summer worship, not worship, but like church camp trips. And they got a worship band there. And you're like, for that week, that's like the coolest band ever. So
they're the best.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I bought the CD, and the CD had like the lyrics and the chords written in it. So like, I guess it was kind of like something you could use to learn these songs to lead worship at your church or whatever. So I just like started learning like G. Okay, here's a G, D, here's a D, E, C. Because you know it was 1, 5, 6, 4. But so I just started like I think I was gonna learn the chords at first, but I just learned like the notes. And my brother played guitar, so he was like, "Yeah, just play that. You play bass, and I'll play guitar." And that was probably, I don't know, maybe like 8 years old or something like that. So I was pretty little. And then, as you said, because you know I grew up in the church, it was like, "Oh, you play bass? Cool, you're in the youth band now." And it's like immediately, you know, I'm on stage playing with other people, which is so important. If you're trying to be a musician, play with other people.
Yeah.
You know,
there's something to be said about that as well, because I don't know who said it, but I think we alluded to it in the last podcast episode about church musicians being such a vital part about the industry. Absolutely. And unfortunately, I see there being some sort of disconnect with that in this day and age. So parents, if you got kids in church, let them pick up something, man. We need church musicians.
Definitely.
I feel like that's kind of like the gateway to.
Why do you say there's disconnect? What do you mean by that?
Because I think, I don't know if there's, how would I say it, like a pathway for musicians when they're young, especially in the day and time that most mega churches have such a distinct structure for how musicians are funneled through.
Right.
There's not as much of those youth camps.
Yeah. No, you're right. It brings up a really interesting point, because I think the climate of church in America is changing compared to when we were little to what it is now. I mean, there's less people going to church. And I think there's reasons for that. I don't want to get like political, but like it does bring an interesting perspective. I'm glad you brought that up, because I live in a world now where it's like, you know, I'm often hired as a contractor to play at church. And that's like an important part of my income. And oftentimes you see worship pastors come in and they're like, "Yeah, we want to bring in volunteers." And that can be a drag, right? When you're the cat who's like, "No, I really do this." And now there's some kid here who doesn't really know what they're doing. But what you said, though, brings to mind that it's important. It's important to get people on stage who are learning.
I think it's possible for us to be able to figure out some type of workaround, but there has to be creative systems put in place and with in mind how important it is for young people to naturally, you know, gravitate towards music within the church space, if that makes sense.
It does, 100%. I think some of it is regional a little bit. like we're in Arizona right now, and I didn't grow up here. I don't know what it's like, but I have a bunch of friends from Houston who have told me that Houston like has this way of cultivating young artists, and like people like Chris Dave, like
Yeah.
really holding the young drummers and saying, like, showing them the way.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better in some places, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, it's something that we should strive to be better at.
I think we can get there. But I think it's on, I don't want to call them gatekeepers, but ones of us that, you know, have been, how do I say, look, God has put it on our heart, or that's a part of our journey, and it's put on your heart for a reason. So you have to create those systems. Let's go to the next question. So can you share with us a story about what you would consider one of your breakthrough moments in your career?
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite stories to tell and favorite moments of my life is when I got the call to work with Macy Gray. And like, are you guys familiar with Macy Gray?
I am familiar.
A little bit.
Not familiar enough to talk like intelligently about like deep cuts
Fair
and
enough.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, she had this hit called "I Try" in like 2000 or 2001 or something, which was like solidly in my youth. You know, like that was like high school and middle school, I guess, for me. And so it's a big deal to me. Like that name to me meant something.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just had a friend who was working with her, and I happened to be out on tour with some friends and was like landing back in LAX. I had just moved to LA, like maybe a couple years into living in LA. And I got a text, you know, you land and then suddenly all the texts come through on your phone when you get back. And I pulled one up and my friend John was like, yo, please tell me you're in LA. And I was like, I mean, kind of. Like, I'm at the airport. I just got back. And then I get another text, and it's like, hey, it's Macy. Can you come to the studio?
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, definitely. Went home, dropped off my bags, kept my bass with me, just jumped back in the car. And she's like, come to this studio. It was a studio called Complex, something like Revival at the Complex, I believe is the name. And it's like Earth, Wind, and Fire's old studio that they had built. At one time, it was like a news station. They revamped it to be their recording studio, and then it's like changed hands ever since there. It's a
How was
beautiful
that energy
studio
in that studio, man?
Oh, man, incredible. It's such a beautiful space. And like, even now, tons of great artists have worked there. Taking the Bangers did their last album there. Rye has worked there a bunch, and so on and so forth. Tons of great people. But so I pull up, she lets me in, and she's so cool. She's, you know, she's been very famous for a very long time. And can't imagine what that's like. But so she's kind of like a cat in some ways. She's like a little distant, doesn't want to like give you too much of herself until she knows you, right? So I'm playing it cool. I'm like, all right, we don't have to really like have small talk or anything. I'll come in and do my thing. I've been playing all weekend. I was just on tour. So I'm ready to go. I walk in. There's a producer there, Tommy Parker, who's incredible. His credits go on and on. I won't even list them. But and she just like starts playing me some songs, and I realize like the album is done. Like there's like 808s everywhere. There's no bass needed on these songs. And she plays me this one, I think it's called When It Ends. And she's like, yeah, so you want to try something? I was like, yeah, sure. I'll play on it. And she like rolls me out to like basically the outro. It was like after the second chorus, right? And she's like, all right, just start playing. Which is crazy. When you're a bass player and you get called to a session, like 9 times out of 10, it's like they already wrote the bass line for you. They don't even really want you to write anything. It's like, I just don't want this to sound like MIDI bass, so I want you to play it instead. Yeah. But she like gives me free reins, like, yeah, let me hear what you got. So I'm vibing. Like, I love the song already. It's the coolest song ever. Tommy Parker's a great producer, and I'm like in love with it. So I just start doing my thing over it.
Wait, so in that moment, I'm sorry, because in that moment, how are you controlling the heartbeat?
The heartbeat?
Your heartbeat at that moment, you know?
Yeah.
because this is a big moment for you. However,
feels like a big moment. Yeah,
this is equivalent to in the music industry. I'm just giving it some context. This is equivalent to you getting called up from the G League, right?
Yeah, right. I love that.
And you have an opportunity to play against first team, the starters. Yeah, and all the coaches are looking at it. So that's the equivalent to this moment.
Vibe. Yeah. I mean, listen, in that moment, I know who I am.
Yeah.
I've been playing music since I was 4. Like, I started playing piano when I was 4 years old, and music has been my life ever since then. I know if I can't bring music to this world, I don't know what I can offer this world. So in that moment, I'm not afraid. I'm more so like, let me cook.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm like, this is my chance to be me.
When preparation meets opportunity.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was a gift. There have been so many moments in my life that were like this, where it's also surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also like, is this a dream? Maybe, like, whatever. I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
So, and then you get into the creative process and you start thinking about, what emotion does this track give me? What am I trying to say right now? And nuts and bolts, like what key, what are the chords, what's the tempo, what's the feel? Do I want to be ahead of the beat, behind the beat? So I just kind of like leaned into what I do, my thing, my groove, which is like, in this moment, at least, what I felt was like kind of behind the beat, play something expressive, something like there's already 808s hitting. So it's not like I just need to play the bass line. It's kind of like, okay, play another melody. And I play some of my stuff, and you get done, and I'm like, I think that was cool. And I look around, and Macy goes, oh my God, that was the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I love it. and that's what I want the listeners to hear, because in that moment, you had already put your 10,000 hours in.
Yeah, 100%.
You had already put your 10,000 hours in, and
10 times over, probably.
and a lot of, let's just use musicians. We don't have that context, because your peak of the mountain was the 10,000 hours. It was not sitting in a studio with Macy Gray.
That's right.
In that moment, you said, oh, that could work. That's cool. Macy Gray said, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So you were no longer looking for yourself to be impressed. You were no longer trying. You were applying the work that you had already put in.
Yeah.
So falling in love with the process of the work.
I love that. Yeah, and like I started off with, it's like it comes down to like loving the craft.
Yeah, man.
And leaning into, and I love that you said not trying, because that's actually a huge pillar for me about creativity, is just like not forcing it, and instead just like emoting and letting it be.
Yeah.
So she loved it, and she was like, "You want to go on tour? We're going to be on the road for 9 months this year." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds amazing." Of course, that tour was actually like 2 weeks. It wasn't 9 months.
There's that part. That's a whole nother conversation.
Music industry insider right there. But I still work with her. I'm her now. Fast forward like 6-7 years, I'm her musical director.
I love it,
and
man.
I've been with her ever since.
Congratulations, bro.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
That's amazing. Man. So rewind that answer over and over and over again.
That was long-winded. I'm sorry. I hope you get something out of that.
No, it's perfect. It's value. Next question I have for you. How do you approach making sure that you remain genre versatile?
I mean, I think it's about listening.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about listening to different genres and realizing, when I think about music, I think music is a language. That's sort of how I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so within that, there's different dialects, right? So
Yes.
you don't like go to France and speak Italian,
Yeah.
right? Like, so like, if I'm doing something that's R&B, I'm going to dig into like, what's the vocabulary of R&B bass?
Mm-hmm.
And try to like, it's also kind of like character acting. It's like I put myself in a character and be that person for that moment. But so your question is like, how do you practice that or flex that muscle? How do you like hone that skill of being genre fluid or being able to do different genres? And I think it's like, it starts with listening, taking in those genres and like understanding what it is and sort of like take yourself out of it for a second.
I like what you said about it's kind of like acting in a sense. And you're a connoisseur of the arts. So you understand theater, you understand acting is almost not acting. You're transforming.
I see what you mean.
You're transforming. You're becoming that.
Yeah.
And that only comes through respect. And like you said, understanding that you're articulating a different dialect of the language. Just because you can speak English really well does not mean you can go to France and speak French very well.
Right.
And I think a lot of musicians do that. They're killer English speakers, right?
Yeah.
And they probably can even be an English professor. And then they go to France and assume that because they're an English professor, that they can hang in a French conversation.
I see what you mean. I like what you said as well. The point about respect. Like, it does come down to you have to want to. Like, are you able to hear, the band from the 70s? Like not a band, but the band, you know what I'm saying? With like, and like appreciate what that is. And then are you able to hear, like Bjork and like appreciate her artistic expression? And I think so some of it is open-mindedness and being able to like accept people and then see the beauty in what they're doing. The greatest musicians I know like see the value in musicians from all different genres.
That's why in the intro we talked about you being a musical scientist. That's what I really do think true musicians are. Music professionals, they are, how would I say, atmosphere they're scientists. Yeah. They're atmosphere scientists. And to be a scientist, you have to study. You have to love the studying of it. You have to, like you said, become an avid listener. And really, you're not listening because you're trying to learn a lick or to learn a chord progression. You're listening because you respect the art. And that is what makes you, that gives you the fuel to be able to create because you've listened to what has already been created, if that makes sense.
For sure.
Okay, now to some more practical, because first off, I don't know any bassist that has come to me for any type of advice that I haven't said, look up Alex Kyhn.
Word? Like that?
Bro.
Dang, man. That's love. Appreciate it.
Dude, we've talked a lot, but in terms of how much I love music and I love creating, I can hear something and I can almost tell what you do on a daily basis. I'm crazy, bro. Like, so I know you're a Kobe fan too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude. That's how I approach me. Like, my ears are my eyes.
Okay.
I can hear someone's personality. I can hear
Definitely.
I can hear what their discipline level is and how they approach a CCM song, a blues song.
Right.
And when I tell you I have so much respect for you because the first time I heard you, like that's how I know somebody, especially musician wise.
Well, it's mutual, bro. I appreciate that. You're a killer in your own right, and like, all that back to you, man. The range and the versatility, like you got it.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
But if I could piggyback on something you said though, because it really resonates with me about like who someone is what they sound like. I think about that so much, and like you. It kind of makes sense when you think about it. If you're the type of person who like loves to cut up and make jokes, make everyone laugh, you happen to be a drummer, you're probably also the drummer that wants to play the fill, right? Like, I mean, there's just some parallels like that we see, and like your personality comes through on that instrument. So a lot of the practice of like being versatile is really, there's an element to it that's like doing self-work. That's like,
talk about it, man.
yeah,
That's what we want to hear. Right
yeah.
there. Deal with it, man. Talk about the self-work, bro.
Yeah, well, I mean, I spend time every day meditating and hiking and spending time alone and thinking and trying to be in silence. And I guess that goes back to the thing about listening too. You can learn so much just by reading the room, and that's like very applicable to a gig too. Like, should I play a fill? Should I not? Like, there's no black and white answer to that, but like, just read the room. Like, is this a gig where you can do that or not? So if I'm versatile and you're versatile, I think that speaks to our range as people too. And like my upbringing, I've lived a lot of places and I've like been in a lot of different cultures. And I think those things benefit me musically as well, because I've seen how much beauty exists in this world. I'm sure not even close to like, I haven't seen how much, the extent of that, but I've seen a lot of beauty in the world enough to like be ready to accept that people are different and that I want to have that kind of range too.
Yeah. It's very evident. And to the listeners, this is important. The Alex Kyhns of the world, they're probably not going to say you're playing with him. He's probably not going to tell you that he hears your discipline level, unless for some reason he feels philanthropic on a particular day and sees something in you. But these are things that we don't say on the daily basis. Right. For example, we were playing together a few weeks ago, and a young lady that I did a youth camp with the church. She's a bass player.
Word.
She's a bass player. She came up to me and she says to me, "Do you know he's in the family company?"
Oh, word? Are you serious?
She comes to me and tells me that, and it was. I don't want to disrespect her. It warmed my heart to see the impact.
For real, me too.
Of that, and I had a few conversations with her, because she was playing for the youth camp, but I was like, no, I'm gonna try to do a podcast with him, and she was like, what? Oh my God. And shout out to Victoria. Watch this episode. She's a good musician, man.
I gotta look her. I gotta hear her play now.
For sure. But that type of impact is what I know people like you are after. It's giving value, making sure that there is something real that's transferred through what you're doing, whether it's you playing the bass, whether it's you engineering, whether it's you having a conversation with somebody. And to see that in real time is man.
Dude, that's affirmation right there. That's crazy. I mean, it makes it all feel worth it for real.
Yeah. Okay, man. Okay, let's get some practical stuff. Talk about your gear. Let's talk about
my gear, man. Versatility. I mean, I think you may have noticed this theme. Like, versatility is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that spirit, I have a lot of different basses, and they kind of span from like old, funky, weird things to like the newest, hypest, like fancy bass type of thing. I really like about a guitar or bass, like it changing the way I sound.
Okay.
So like, I'll spend a month playing an old P bass with flat wounds on it, super dead strings, and like acting like I'm James Jamerson and like really getting into that mode. And then at a certain point, I'm like, oh, okay, I got to go do this other gig, and it's like super like slap heavy 5-string jazz bass. Like I can't bring the old P bass to that, so let me switch basses. So I have a lot of different things. The most recent thing I got was a Pensa. Okay. A Pensa is like,
I think I've seen. Did you bring that?
I didn't bring that this most recent time, but I think you've seen it before. I bought it like a year ago or something like that. So I think
Blue?
you've seen it. Yeah, the
Yeah,
blue one.
yes.
Yeah. So that one's like a real fancy jazz bass. Essentially, it's made. I don't know the luthier's name, but they're sold out of Rudy's guitar shop, which is in New York.
Okay.
I think it's on like 51st or something like that. And it's just like such a nice instrument, so easy to play. And that lets me tap into a different sound, some like Anthony Jackson type bass playing, some Verdine White, like just low action, like a lot of movement, a lot of melodic lines and stuff. Like,
So are you more so a musician producer that puts a heavy percentage of significance on the bass you play? Because now we're in the age of Helix and preamps and people using pedal boards, bass players playing pedal boards on the stage.
yeah.
Talk about that, your approach to that a little bit.
For sure. Yeah, I've got some hot takes on that for sure. I don't use a pedal board.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like every bass player in LA has that Noble preamp right now. And it's dope. Don't get me wrong. But like, I don't know. I just feel like you can craft your tone so much through your hands. I had an extensive pedal board for a really long time. And frankly, I just got tired of carrying it around.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'm not like a big pedal board guy. If I'm in the studio, it's like you got basically a rack full of pedals, so to speak, in front of you. So, but the instrument itself is important to me. I do like to switch guitars a lot.
That's important though, because I think that is becoming a little bit of a lost art with certain guitarists and bassists in this present day. I was working with a guitarist last weekend. We were putting together a performance, and he was having trouble because he kept having to run back to his pedal board to change gain stages on his guitar. And I was like, hey, why don't you just roll back on your... And his mind was blown.
You could do that?
It's like, what? Just roll back. And when you said about your tone being in your hand, there's so much you can do with different pickups, the rolling back of your tone knobs, your volume knobs, and so forth and so on. So,
and especially on bass too. I feel even more than guitar because it's one note, the strings are bigger, so it's like palm muting, playing with your thumb versus your fingers, how long your fingernails are, pick versus fingers, how hard you're digging in, playing by the bridge versus by the neck. There's just so much that goes into it. So my gear choices, I got a lot of basses. I'm endorsed by Aguilar, so shout out to Aguilar. I use their amps, and I love those because I feel like, I mean, I can get my sound, but that sounds obvious, but like what that means to me is like it's a fairly transparent sounding amp. Okay. Like I really hear the bass coming through the amp versus something like an Ampeg. Ampegs are classic. They've stood the test of time. Great amps, but it's like in my experience at least, they like shape the sound of the bass so much.
I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? It's the same thing with that Noble preamp. Like people like to play those because it adds a ton of low end, but if I want more low end, I'd like to be able to control that with my fingers.
You don't want a piece of gear that overshadows the instrument.
That's right.
I see.
Yeah, that's my feeling. But not that there's anything wrong with the other way. Some people like do great. Like Justin Meldal Johnson, one of my favorite bass players, is like a guy who leans heavily into the gear he's playing. He'll go from playing like a fretless wall to, a P bass or whatever. And yeah, it works for him.
Yeah.
And good for him, but it's not for me.
So about intentionality, more or less, and having the tools you need and then really knowing the tools that you're using. So to any bass player out there, you shape your sound through the intent of what you're trying to create or recreate with your sound.
Right.
Rather than chasing something that you've seen another musician doing.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's a trap for sure. And to piggyback on that, like what is your intent? Your intent should be to support a song, right? So like listen to a song. What's the vibe? What's the era? What's the feeling? Yeah. And what's the piece of gear that's going to attach you to the song? Mm-hmm. As opposed to, I don't chase like, well, this bass is really easy to play. unless that's also in line with what the song is. You know,
Man, y'all, this is killer information. This is like Berkeley masterclass stuff. So I really want you to know that. So watch this however many times you need to. Great individual, great musician. I'm gonna get through a few more of these questions, but man, this is already so good. Let's ask you this one. What's the best advice you've received about succeeding in the music industry?
I think that the bit of advice that's always resonated with me the most was not really given to me. Man, I want to say Tom Petty said this, but that could be way off. Somebody once said that, like, if you're able to play music full time, you're succeeding. And that's not shade at people who like work other jobs either, but like, I think there's this trap of like always wanting more. It's really human nature, but like, you know, you get a gig and you get on Instagram and you see somebody else's gig and their gig looks a little bit more hype than yours. And now you want that gig. So when chasing success, I think something that's helped me find peace is like gratitude and realizing like I'm already succeeding. I've already made it.
Yeah.
And then from that space, hopefully I'm able to be a more honest artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's killer. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about the self-work. So much about art in general and being a creative is about really connecting with experience, right? And really being able to articulate experience and how can you become a master of that or an ambassador of that. That's cool. If you're not truly engaging with your experience and being, like you said, grateful. And grateful is a verb. Gratitude is a verb. It's not a noun. Like it's an action.
Right.
It's a response to your experience and your level of awareness. Right. So that's another big nugget, guys. Gratitude and really being present in whatever your process is, your life. Take a look around you, hike, work out, read.
Yeah, find peace and patience. I'd say along with gratitude, like know that like when you set goals in your life, if you keep working towards them, you'll get there. And then everything in between that, you just got to practice patience.
Yeah.
And that can be so challenging, man, especially today with social media and whatnot, and like having this look into everyone else's life.
Yeah.
But yeah, just realize like your time is coming. What's meant for you is you're gonna have, and wait for it.
And that goes back to your story, the Macy Gray story. You weren't overtaken with that moment because you were fully present in your process. You weren't in the airport saying, geez, I wish somebody would shoot me a text right now. You were actively working towards, what you feel like your calling is and what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Man, this is really good. I'm going to ask you one more and then we're going to do these reaction videos, bro. Okay. What trends are currently shaping the music industry and how can musicians stay ahead of them? And then how will AI affect the industry over the next 20 to 50 years?
See, how are you going to give me a question and the answer? You already know that's the answer. AI,
because I knew you knew that.
AI is changing everything. It's crazy, and I've thought about this a lot. Because I think like all of our first reaction is like, oh, there goes my gig. Like, and if you follow producers on social media, if you pay attention, you already see it. Like producers are using AI. Yeah. Like wasn't They're Not Like Us? Was it?
Yeah.
Am I mistaken? Was that AI?
It was on one of the.
It was one of those.
It was on one of the diss tracks.
It wasn't that one. It was another one, I think. But
I'm sure it was used throughout the entire process.
So I think like most of us musicians' first reaction to that was like, well, there goes my gig. Like, why can't AI? Somebody said, why can't AI be doing like the paperwork or like the garbage and let me do the songwriting? Like why do they get the fun job? But then you got to think about that and think about like, okay, this is to your second point, like AI also benefits us. It gives us an opportunity to all be the creator. And now I don't have to play the bass. Yes, I love playing the bass, and I'm always going to do that, but like it lets me also be the artist and be a bigger role in this world than just like someone helping an artist grow. Like now I can be the artist.
That's a real responsible outlook on it, though.
Well, man, life has changed so much, like in the generations before us. Like, I think you just got to realize AI is just another tool. It's here to stay, and you got to either learn how to use it or fall by the wayside because it's not going away.
Well, talk about that, because I've had conversations with a lot of tenured musicians, and the industry is scared, bro. Not everyone has the outlook of it's here to stay and I need to work with this and be ahead of the push.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm sitting down having a conversation with you.
Right.
For some reason I knew you're not scared.
Yeah.
So what are you telling not only the musician that has made their career in this, have fed their family on this for 20, 25 years, but also to that musician that loves playing and like, I want to do this for the rest of my life? How do they use AI? How do they accept this reality?
Yeah.
And merge it into a successful career?
Well, I think first I would address that it is scary when you have like a life set up in a certain way and that seems challenged by something. It's reasonable to feel nervous about that and for that to feel uncomfortable. So for the cat who's been on a gig for 40 years who's seeing this, put that in question, like I'm not invalidating that feeling. But I would say like for the young kid coming up, the young bass player, they now have an opportunity to be the next Mono Neon or Thundercat, like bigger than just like, oh yeah, I play bass in this bar band or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that either, but like you can be a full, like you can present yourself as an artist, as a whole brand now.
Yeah.
And you have the tools to do that. And at one time that, bro, with Family Company, which you mentioned earlier, like there's so much like making videos, making tracks, mixing. There's so many things that go into it.
Yeah.
Things get expensive, right? Like to hire someone, to hire someone to make a music video is expensive. But like to throw some little like AI thing together is free at this point.
Yeah. As long as the content has some level of engaging value, absolutely.
That part is really important. Yeah, but here my thought is that like how do we qualify value of art? Art is subjective, and so what the answer that I found, I can only answer for myself, but honesty. Speaking about a real experience, about my real experience. Like you described experience earlier and you said a true experience. And I think that speaks to honesty as well. Like if I write a song and it comes from a place that is real, I think that makes it good. And you'll see that through the charts, like the songs that are really big, it's because they come from really real experiences and songwriters who know how to tap into that thing. Yeah. Well, AI is like, there is no real there. So I think that what will still win in all sectors is making something that's honest.
I think I had this conversation with, man, I love you, dude. I think we had this conversation because AI cannot recreate human experience.
Yeah.
And if we learn how to use it as a tool, like you were alluding to, but coupled with real experience,
that's right,
real humanity, reality,
it
becomes a monster that you can use in your advantage.
Are you familiar with the term uncanny valley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the idea that like our minds can sense when something is like slightly off. Like even if it's an AI generated face, but there's like something weird about it, the term to describe that is the uncanny valley.
I'm a huge Malcolm Gladwell fan. His book Blink, about rapid cognition, and how the subconscious gathers a conclusion in less than like a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
And it's just our frontal cortex trying to interpret what our subconscious already knows when we gather
So
thoughts.
crazy.
It goes to that term of uncanny valley, because you can't lie
Right.
to the subconscious.
Right. And I just saw a video today of Jack Antonoff, like one of my favorite producers right now, talking about realize that the audience, that people are brilliant. And I was like, that's so cool to me, because I think I've spent so much of my life being like, no, that's going to go over people's heads, right? As a creator. And then like at some point you're like, no, I think it's true. Like they will get the nuance of what you're doing. They will. And I think what you just said sort of like supports that idea too. Like,
absolutely.
people are brilliant.
I think sometimes we get programmed to this facade of a reality that stupid exists. I think there's imbalance, but I don't know about stupid.
Right. I hear that.
I think we use, and hear me out with this, I think we use brilliant in a lot of different ways in this experience.
Right.
Yeah, that's how I'll leave it.
No,
at
that's
that.
beautiful. I believe that too. It goes in line with a thought I have a lot, that like everyone is doing the best they can.
Yeah, man.
And it's crazy when you think about that, and there are like people in this world hurting each other, right? Doing terrible things. But you got to realize like somehow that makes sense to that person.
Yes.
And like they're doing the best they can. And that's not to say that people shouldn't be held accountable for terrible things they do, et cetera. But like, I think empathy is good, and realizing that people are trying to be good. I think that's
and not approaching, having an outlook of condescendence or you have figured out the answer. I think that's also a trap.
Yeah.
Walking
Man,
around
that
with
is a
that haughtiness of I'm this and somebody else is this. You know, especially in art.
Yeah.
I think Rick Rubin alludes to this a lot too. Is just create. Really be honest and create.
Yeah.
Not with these notions of, is someone going to get?
Right.
Is that your responsibility, or is it your responsibility as a creative to create?
Totally.
Yeah. Man,
That sounds like something Rick Rubin would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm big on Quincy Jones, Rick Rubin,
Rest
bro.
in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace to Quincy Jones. It was a great. Man, this has already been a great conversation, bro.
Good,
I'm gonna go back and listen to this a few times and take some notes, man. So once again, these reaction, these videos, I want you to give your most natural reaction to them. But this compilation of bassists are modern bassists that are currently working, have kind of made a way for themselves. But this is if I had to describe your playing right now, it would be like a goulash of these.
Word. And I
these
see Rafiki on there.
Yeah, man. And I'll tell you why, man. Rafiki, he has an uncanny ability to know to appropriately mesh groove with feel. So some things that he's playing, I see a lot of people like, was that him giving an expressive feel, or was that a part of the groove? Right. A lot of people get confused with that. And I'm like, that's just his brilliance.
Absolutely, 100%.
And I've listened back on a lot of your tracks, bro, and it's kind of the same way. It's like, was that a feel, or was that a groove?
Right. I hear that. I mean, Justin's one of my favorites. Ooh. I mean, it probably goes without saying, but I wish I sounded anything like Justin Raines, bro.
Okay.
One of the coldest.
This part, man. substitute that too.
Yeah.
So, dude, like 100 different players can play that progression, right? But that's him. When you hear him playing. I like he did a substitution. The chord was 4, and he went to the 2. Yeah, that's stuff that I've seen.
Well, we played together. You already know that's like my favorite thing is to throw in the chord substitution once in a while.
And it's like you do it in a split second. Like in a split second, it will come to your mind. Like, I know it's the 4, but I'm gonna go to the 2 because this is what's gonna give it an umph. But that's like a fraction of a second thought with you.
Right. It is. You got to process quickly to do that. And I'm thinking about kind of like colors when I'm doing that, because it's like every chord sort of has like a different emotion to it. Right. And so like the 4 chord has this like openness. This
Mind blown, bro. Yes. Every chord has a different emotion to it.
Yeah. So you can change it, and it can be really effective. Like, pay attention to what the words are, and I think that will inform when you can do things like that. Justin Raines is a master of that, bro. One of my favorites. I got to hang with Justin Raines one time in Puerto Rico.
Oh.
Justin and Paris Bowens.
This is another one of his clips. I think this is on tour with Neo.
Oh, this is a Neo game? Yo, but he's so clean, though. I wish I could be that clean.
Oh, my God, dude. But goes to the versatility conversation. Like, we just seen him playing in church. Now we see him giving a slightly different vibe to this particular hit that he's on with Neo. Can you pause it right there? We're not going to gloss over that. So he played the 6 on like 5 different parts of the fretboard. Can you rewind that, bro? I don't know if you can rewind it. You have to go from the top. But we'll play
no problem. That's all good.
But stuff like that is what I love telling, say a bass player I'm on a hit. Every note has a different feeling to it. Even if it's the same note within the scale.
Right.
You play it at a different spot of the fretboard, it's going to feel different.
That's right. I agree. And the articulation, too. Like, I'm waiting for it to come back up, but I think, like, he slides up to it one time, then drops it open one time. And he's communicating.
That stuff makes a huge difference. Can you talk about that just a little bit, about how much of a difference that type of stuff makes?
Well, I mean, what I want to say about that is, like, what I hear in Justin's playing that I want to take from it, that I think I do, is just like aggressiveness. Mm-hmm. Like, it's unrelenting creativity. And like
no letting up.
Yeah, and fearlessness too. Cause like sometimes you get on the stage and it's like you're scared to play a wrong note, right? And that's not the space to try to be in. It's just not fun to play that way. I don't think Justin has that thing. I've never seen it. Because he goes for broke.
Yeah, I love it, man. That Daryl Freeman, man.
Oh. Free. Shout out to Maxwell too. Yeah. Travis Sales.
Shout
MD out on this gig. Yo, so with Macy, we opened for Maxwell.
Oh, dope.
Some casino somewhere or something. And so got to hang with Daryl for a while after the show, and just like, it was so hard.
For Daryl, why I kind of relate a lot of your playing with Daryl is, for me, he knows how to get out of the way so well while still being there, which is why I think he fits so well with Maxwell right now, because it's just this relentless foundation, right? It's aggressive, but it is so subtle. It is so out of the way.
Yeah.
It's almost like Jameson a little bit.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah, I mean, I think that like what I hear in his playing is just like he's thinking about feel. He's never forgetting about like this needs to feel good. And that's something I wish, like, I want to be more like that, like him. When I hear, I'm like, yo, you didn't, for even a split second, you didn't get caught up in that run you were doing. Like, you stayed with, no, this needs to feel good.
Okay.
Like, he's so smooth. And, yo, he's just like that in real life, too. Yeah. He's like one of the, you probably met him before. He's like so cool.
It's his personality.
It's outrageous. One of my favorites.
You hear their personality.
Not to mention tone. You know what? He tunes down to A.
I didn't know that.
The low B down to A. And because of that, I got that hip shot drop tuner on one of my basses now. Because like I heard him hit that low A, and I was like,
hey, and we got to shout out because he was the bassist on Glorious. So shout out to BJ Putnam and Daryl Freeman. The bass and drums on that record is no less than legendary.
Oh yeah. Joe Dart.
Yeah, man.
The legend. So this is with Fearless Flyers.
Yeah.
Nasty.
Yeah, man. Joe Dart, shout out. The reason why, we can cut it now. The reason why Joe Dart comes up to me is first tone and then joy. I feel so much joy from him and so much peace and so much development of himself as an individual, and it comes out of him through his playing. This is the feeling that I got when I first played with you.
Oh,
you're real reserved, but there's a lot of peace about you, man. There's a lot of you're not insecure, and you're fine with playing what you feel.
Yeah.
And that Joe Dart, that's him for me, bro.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of his. Like, it's so playful, right? Like the way he's like, there's like a childlike joy to your point about the way he plays, and really about that whole band, Wolfpack.
Yeah.
Or I guess this is Fearless Flyers, but it sort of stems from Wolfpack.
Yeah.
But this like music is kind of supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
You know, and like we don't always have to take it so seriously. That's a reminder I need all the time, bro. Like, don't take yourself too seriously.
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one. Thanks for saying that. Yeah. I think we got one more, and this
Mono. Come on, bro.
Can I just? I'm gonna say what I need to say about this one before we start it. So this is the part about your personality, as well as your playing, that I most respect. You're very much so a killer, though.
Appreciate it.
You're a killer though, and you approach music, not just the bass playing, the music. You approach it in a way that I'm here on this stage, and when I leave this stage, you're gonna know that I was on this stage. And Mono's playing is cutting off heads whenever he gets on platform. I don't know Mono as a person. I've heard about Mono. Don't want to speak about his personality, but his playing, he's nuts, man.
Incredible. Yeah, I mean, did you ever see maybe he still posts it once in a while, but he used to like at the end of his videos, he would have like his art manifesto. Did you ever see that?
Yes.
I appreciated that so much because he just like laid it out for you. Like, no, I'm going to like scream into the void. I'm not going to subtly like give you some thoughts. Like, I'm going to be bold and strong. And I mean, not to mention like the technique and skill and feel and it, like he's so good. But like he takes a left when everyone else takes a right consistently, and I appreciate
and
that.
he enjoys it. So yeah, let's listen to this because he has his own act now, man.
Yeah. I was just with Mackenzie last night, the singer for Ghost Note.
Dope, man.
Which is what Mono Neon was with. I don't think he does it anymore.
Just makes you want to play, bro. Real avant-garde, atonal.
Memphis dude right there. And I think like the soulfulness, like that's what's crazy is even as far avant-garde out as he takes it, it never loses that like real soulful, like it still touches
he brings
something.
It home. Yeah.
Kind of, it reminds me of Eric Gales in some ways. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Who, if I'm not mistaken, he's another Memphis cat.
Yeah.
They're different down there.
You feel every note. Yeah, man. So yeah, thanks for reacting to those. But that combination is
some of my favorite bass players right there.
Man.
Kill it.
Hear it and feel it, bro. So this is gonna be the conclusion of this interview, man. This has been so beneficial, bro. And like I said, from the bottom of my heart, I genuinely appreciate it, not just because I get to sit here and have a conversation with you, because I know this is documented and this is in the cloud now.
Yeah.
And people can go and grasp that value at any point in time. And I, like I said, with the young lady that came up to the stage and was impacted, man, as much as we love music and creating, to be able to really impact people, I think that's why we create, and that's 100%. Why we. And, geez, you're doing it, man. Every time I get to have a conversation with you and to feel the growth, to feel the growth as a person, as a musician, as a professional, as a man, it's truly an honor and a privilege, man. So
likewise, back at you, man. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you, bro. It's an honor.
This has been another IGuru Brand Showcase. The one and only Mr. Alex Kyhn, master music professional, bassist, Renaissance man. We'll see you on the next one.